Hello everyone. Today I want to look at handling mouse events inside the Flowcode engine. This could be for an app developer project, or it could be when creating a simulation to go with a embedded component. Firstly, I'm going to create a panel primitive. Under creation in the component libraries, we have a number of primitive components. So if I drag on a rectangle, this is actually a primitive wrapped up in a component. To allow the mouse click to easily access this primitive, the easiest way is to break the primitive out of the component. It's possible to do it with it as like this, but it's more complicated. So I go to View, Component Debugger, expose the full component tree. Then you see we now have our component and we also have the primitive object inside. If I select the primitive, select the panel, and then do a copy paste, then I now have an object which is just the primitive item. I can delete the component, and now in our property tree we just have our primitive item. If I create an event which is a mouse click event and add a new macro to that, then whenever I click on an object on the panel, this will be fired. To prove this, in my main I'll create a loop to keep the simulation running. I'll click to monitor events, and then when I click on the component panel, I get a coordinate of my mouse click, and this coordinate ranges from -1 to 1. So right in the middle is roughly 0, 0. As there may be more than one primitive item on the panel, the first thing you want to do is check that the primitive that's being clicked is the one that you're interested in. So the first thing I'll do is I'll add a decision icon, and I'll check that the parameter component is equal to shape1, which is my panel primitive item. If it is equal, then what I want to do is I want to convert the mouse click coordinates from that -1 to 1 into a more sensible number. And the way to do this is, firstly, I'm going to say that .x is equal to .x plus 1. So this will take it from a number between 0 and 2, and then I want to divide it by 2, which will take it from a number between 0 and 1. I'm adding the point 0 to force the calculation to be a floating point calculation. I'll do the same for the y. Now what I want to do is I want to make it really easy to detect whereabouts in the shape I'm clicking. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break this shape up into 4 segments. To make it really easy, I'm going to make integer values of my x and y. So I'm going to create an x int and a y int. So my x int will equal .x times 2.0. And this number here is how many cells you want to have inside the primitive. So here I want two quadrants on the x and 2 quadrants on the y. So my .y int will be .y times 2.0. Again, this needs to be a floating point calculation, but then it's stored into an integer. To check that this has worked, I'm going to use my console writer component. I'm going to create a string. In fact, I won't use this. I'll use the built-in debug interface on the component debugger. So let's clear the text there. So for my string, I want to say .str is equal to x plus string dot x int plus y plus string y int. And then I want to call the debug print line with the parameter my string variable. And then with any luck, when I run this, x is 0, y is 1, x is 0, y is 0, x is 1, y is 1, x is 1, y is 0. So there's our 4 quadrants. Now if I wanted to assign a texture to this to give us some useful functions to go with the quadrants, then here you can see that we have some nice a nice texture that I've already created that splits the primitive up into 4 sections and makes it obvious what each part of the quadrant is going to do. So how would I go about using this? Well, let's create a logo indicator and maybe a second logo indicator. And with the on and off, I want to turn this from green to red. So we would probably need a global variable, which would be click. And in our EV click, we can basically have a few decisions. So if .x int equals 0 and .y int equals 0, 0, 0 is up, I believe. So we would add a little comment here. So this is up. If x is 0 and y is 1, that would be on. If x is 1 and y is 0, that would be down. And if they're both 1, then that would be off. And so we can very simply, for our on state, we can say logo index is 1. For our off state, we can say it's 2. We can create we've already got our click variable, so for up we can say click equals click plus 1, and then if click is greater than 8, which is the maximum that the logo indicator can display, then we'll reset it to 0. And we'll assign the logo here of click. And the same for down, where if click equals 0, click equals 8. Otherwise, click equals click minus 1. Save the project. That's mouse click demo. And now when I run the program, I can turn the logo indicator on and off, and I can go up and back down. I hope this has been useful. I've been Ben Rowland, and this has been Flowcode version 9.